Chapter 1. History of Africa. The written history of Africa begins in the 4th millennium BC with the rise of Egyptian civilization. Throughout centuries, many varied societies began flowing into the continent and generating a range of civilizations and faiths that spread out across the different regions of Africa. Early foreign occupation. The Romans colonized all of North Africa in the 1st century BC, spreading Christendom throughout the big parts of the area as far as south as Kush and Ethiopia. Nevertheless, the spread of Islam began in the late 7th century in North and East Africa, leading to new cultures like those of the Swahili in East Africa and the Songhai Empire in the sub-Saharan West. The rise of Islam created a boost in the Arab servant trade, which culminated in the 19th century and ultimately resulted in the pushed transport in the Atlantic servant trade and the start of European colonization throughout Africa, which had remarkable effects on the history of Africa. In West Africa, the Muslim North had little influence on the independent kingdoms in the forested areas of West Africa. The LFE federal government, the first of the Yoruba city-states, was established under a priestly king and was the spiritual and cultural center of the region. At the start of the 14th century, Yoruba land developed a community east of LFE that developed in the Benin Empire. Benin became an independent trading power by the 15th century, cutting off LFE's access to coastal ports. Benin included much of southeastern Yoruba land and the western Igbo by the 16th and 17th centuries. The Bantu migrations. The Bantu people had settled the areas south of the Limpopo River by the 4th or 5th century, displacing and absorbing the Kosan-speaking tribes who moved gradually southwards. In the eastern Cape Province, the southernmost group is the Kosa people, who integrate certain linguistic characteristics from the earlier Khoisan people. Settlers in Southern Africa. In 1487, Portuguese explorer Bartolomeu Dias made his stamp on the history of Africa by being the first European to reach the southernmost suggestion of Africa. In 1652, the Dutch settled in the Cape of Good Hope area and established a portal between Europe and the East on behalf of the Dutch East India Company. The region was seized by Great Britain in 1795 to prevent the French from taking control of it, but also to use Cape Town as a stopping point en route to Australia and India. The Dutch gained back possession in 1803, but when the Dutch East India Company declared bankruptcy, the British annexed the Cape Group in 1806. The partitioning of Africa. By the mid-19th century, Protestants were carrying on missionary work on the Guinea coast in South Africa and in the Zanzibar dominions. The missionaries became explorers or representatives of trade and colonialism. In the last quarter of the 19th century, lines of partition were drawn across Africa, marking possessions of Germany, France, Britain, and other great powers. None of the African cultures were consulted throughout the partitioning, and an international treaty was signed that ignored the ethnic, social, and economic composition of the people living in the area. This has been the reason for limitless years of ethnic or tribal dispute as the African countries have fought to acquire their independence back. African history is harsh. Even to this day, dispute exists in between the African tribes and the different ethnic groups.